Darth Maul is one of Star Wars' most iconic characters, instantly recognizable and beloved by fans. Thanks to the expanded universe and Star Wars The Clone Wars, over the years, Maul has gone from being a cool, but mostly featureless one-off bad guy to an incredibly complex and sympathetic antagonist. The Clone Wars in particular made Maul into a tragic character, a being who was destined for greatness before being cruelly abandoned by his Sith master. But there's another layer to this tragedy that a lot of Maul fans aren't aware of. That's because Maul would have been cast aside even if he hadn't been defeated by Obi-Wan on Naboo, and in this video, we'll be explaining why.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Maul was born on Dathomir to Caecina, a night sister of Mother Talzin's clan, but at a very young age, he was given away to a man he knew only as Darth Sidious. Sidious brought the young man to a remote Damask Holdings facility on Mustafar, where the boy was raised by droids in near isolation. On Sidious's orders, the droids subjected young Maul to a brutal training regimen, teaching him a wide variety of combat techniques. This continued until, during one sparring session, Maul won a battle with his droid trainers through the use of the Force. After this incident, Sidious took a more active role in Maul's life, teaching him about the Force and how to use it. Eventually, Sidious told Maul that he was the Dark Lord of the Sith, and after a final, brutal series of tests, Sidious gave Maul the title of Darth, proclaiming him to be his Sith apprentice under the rule of two. For years, Maul served as Darth Sidious's right hand, killing the enemies of the Sith and preparing for the commencement of his master's grand plan. Sidious constantly hyped his young apprentice up for the return of the Sith, on one occasion even giving Maul a tour of the Jedi Temple, whispering to him of how the Jedi would be slaughtered and the Sith would reign supreme, with the Jedi around them completely oblivious. Understandably, all of this made Maul eager for the day he would reveal himself to the Jedi. That day ultimately came in 32 BBY, when he attacked Qui-Gon Jinn on Tatooine. But Maul's time in the spotlight didn't last long. Shortly after his first confrontation with Qui-Gon on Tatooine, he was defeated by Qui-Gon's apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi, during the Battle of Naboo. On Naboo, Maul was cut in half and presumed dead by the galaxy, forgotten for over a decade. His master quickly moved on. In a matter of weeks, Sidious took on a new apprentice, Darth Tyrannus, better known as Count Dooku. Maul's defeat and subsequent abandonment by the Sith led him to develop a deep hatred for Obi-Wan and, to a lesser degree, Count Dooku, both of whom he blamed for denying him his chance at greatness. Unbeknownst to him, however, he had never had that chance to begin with. Even if he had been victorious on Naboo, he would still have likely been discarded in favor of Dooku. Though he didn't know it, Maul's title was a lie. He was never a proper Sith apprentice because, at the time, Sidious was not the Dark Lord of the Sith. Unbeknownst to Maul, his master was actually the apprentice of Darth Plagueis. What's more, Plagueis knew that Sidious was training Maul. In fact, Sidious had actually asked Plagueis for permission before proceeding. Plagueis had agreed because Sidious never intended to train Maul as a genuine Sith Lord. Instead, Maul was meant to be a Sith assassin, trained primarily for combat. It wasn't until the time of the Battle of Naboo that Sidious finally betrayed his master and seized the title of Dark Lord of the Sith for himself. However, at roughly the same time Sidious killed Darth Plagueis, Darth Maul was cut in half and presumed dead on Naboo, allowing Count Dooku to become Sidious's first apprentice as the Dark Lord. There were only a few weeks between Maul's defeat and Dooku's fall. Indeed, Dooku joined the Sith so soon after the Battle of Naboo that Maul's defeat had no effect on the progress of Sidious's plans. This was by design. Truth be told, the Sith had been watching Dooku for a very long time, steadily grooming him into a useful ally, a process Darth Plagueis began before Maul was even born. Plagueis became acquainted with Dooku more than 20 years before the Battle of Naboo, and he came to see the proud Jedi Master as a suitable backup plan, someone he could take as a replacement apprentice if Darth Sidious was killed. He also toyed with the idea of turning Dooku to the dark side indirectly and using him to cause a schism in the Jedi Order, though he was never seriously committed to that plan. But it was Sidious who did most of the work grooming Dooku. Over the course of 20 years, Sidious developed a strong relationship with the Jedi Master, which he used to manipulate Dooku in much the same way he would later manipulate Anakin Skywalker. Even as he was training Darth Maul, Sidious was steadily driving Dooku toward the dark side, inflaming his disillusionment with the Jedi Order and the Republic. By the time of the Battle of Naboo, Sidious had so thoroughly corrupted Dooku that he had an extremely easy time convincing the ex-Jedi to join the Sith, even when he finally revealed his true identity. Once Sidious revealed himself, all it took was a few hours of idly chatting about politics for Dooku to pledge himself to the Order of the Sith Lords. All of this suggests that Maul's defeat at Naboo was not a setback for Darth Sidious, but rather a stroke of luck. If Maul had returned from Naboo, we believe Sidious would either have killed him outright or would otherwise have set him up to die. Perhaps Sidious would have used Maul as bait to lure Dooku to the dark side, since Maul was responsible for the death of Dooku's favourite apprentice, much as Sidious would later use Dooku as bait for Anakin Skywalker. Either way, we think Maul would have been replaced by Dooku no matter what, and the reason why lies in the details of the Sith Grand Plan. Consider Dooku's role in the Sith Grand Plan. His job was to use his reputation as a principled paragon of virtue and his skill as a politician to create a separatist faction under Sith control, which would be used to start a civil war with the Republic. He was also tasked with overseeing the creation of the Grand Army of the Republic, which Dooku himself made several important payments for. For this crucial stage of his plan, Sidious needed an apprentice who had vast amounts of wealth, experience with politics, and the reputation and charisma needed to single-handedly manufacture a galactic-scale political movement. Maul had none of these things. As we mentioned earlier, most of his training was in combat techniques, and by the time of the Battle of Naboo, those had mostly served their purposes. Maul had already eliminated everyone the Sith needed out of the way. After Naboo, Sidious could just hire common bounty hunters to tie up any further loose ends. He had no further use for a Sith assassin. Maul would have been dead weight. While it's certainly possible that Sidious could have trained Maul in more of the techniques of a proper Sith Lord after the Battle of Naboo, the fact remains that Maul wasn't and would never have been capable of fulfilling Dooku's role in the Sith Grand Plan. He was cunning, but he lacked the intuitive feel for politics and grand strategies that Dooku and Sidious had. Star Wars The Clone Wars showed us that he was capable of manipulation and carrying out complex plans, as shown by his and Pre Vizsla's successful takeover of Mandalore. But it's worth noting that Maul's plans in those episodes is identical to the one Vizsla had developed with Count Dooku 3 seasons earlier, just substituting the planned Republic invasion force for their bounty hunter allies. This means that Maul likely just adapted the older plan to his own situation. On top of that, Maul was completely bereft of the political experience, galaxy-wide reputation, and charisma that Dooku had. Maul's mere presence made people uneasy, and he would have stood a snowball's chance in hell of being able to openly lead the CIS like Dooku did. Maul's rule of Mandalore is a good indication of this, as he relied on Prime Minister Almec to handle all the politics for him. Maul also definitely didn't have the money to bankroll a clone army, which was another important job of Dooku's. The Sith Grand Plan could not have succeeded without Dooku or someone like him. In all likelihood, Darth Sidious had always intended for Dooku to replace Darth Maul as his apprentice after the Battle of Naboo. In this sense, Sidious's mission for Maul on Naboo could be compared to his mission for General Grievous on Utapau. To quote a passage from the Revenge of the Sith novelization, "The final element essential to the creation of a truly effective Jedi trap is a certain coldness of mind, a detachment, if you will, from any desire for a particular outcome. The best way to arrange matters is to create a win-win situation. For example, one might use as one's proxy a creature that is not only expendable, but would eventually have to be killed anyway. Thus, if one's proxy fails and is destroyed, it's no loss. In fact, the targeted Jedi has actually done one a favor, by taking care of a bit of dirty work one would otherwise have to do oneself. This makes Maul an even more tragic character. He wasn't just robbed of the destiny he had been promised by his master, Sidious had promised him a lie to begin with, and he never truly had a chance of being anything more than a living weapon, a pawn that the Sith discarded once his purpose was fulfilled. Ironically enough, this also means that Obi-Wan probably saved Maul's life by defeating him, which Maul never had the perspective to realize. But that's just our theory. Do you disagree? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.